Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager of DevTools, Eric Whitman.
Bonjour, hello, how are you? Come and tell me what it is, what I do. Cool, so cool, Joe Campbell, Bonjour, hello, how are you?
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today at Summit. I'm sure you've already got a ton of information that's packed into your brain, and we're about to give you even more for that. So I want to extend a special thanks for those who are joining from around the world on the live stream. Thanks, y'all. And I also want to thank Tempo for being our platinum sponsor this year. Now, the Tempo booth is open right outside the forum here, and in particular, I'd love for you guys to go check out their new mobile application that just looks great. Now, we love software teams, and I'm super excited to be here today to talk about how Atlassian is going to help unleash the potential of your software team. Now, Atlassian wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for our ecosystem. Now, we can't solve every problem for software teams, but it's our ecosystem who builds upon our products to provide customers with everything they need. And today, we're going to be here to talk about one thing, which is how do we keep your software teams moving fast? The nature of software development is changing. It's less about building these monolithic applications that ship every 18 months, and more about building smaller purpose services that solve immediate needs. Now, in this new world, speed and reaction times are more important than ever before. And Mike and Scott talked about our growth as a company over the past 13 years. And during that time, we learned a lot about what makes great software teams move quickly. Now, when we first started, shipping software used to feel like a high-performance car that was just going down a straight road and there was no obstacles in our way. Sounds great, huh? Well, now it feels more like driving an old car down a windy road, and at any point in time, we could be hitting a flock of sheep. I mean, this is one of the challenges of software. Right? As your product becomes more successful and the teams that build it become more complex, it just slows you down, right? And this is the problem with building successful software applications. Complexity slows you down. And so it's not just us, right? Even the greatest and fastest software teams on the planet face this challenge. Take one of our customers, Sahara Force India, as an example. Sahara Force India is a Formula One racing team that is moving to the front of the pack in this hyper-competitive sport. Speed is their business. Now, the cars they race are super sophisticated. Modern F1 cars are not just machines. They're like computers that are strapped to a rocket ship. And it's the software that makes these cars go faster. Now, the F1 racing schedule is absolutely grueling. Races occur every few weeks across different parts of the globe, and there are many variables to manage, like track conditions, racing, and any new mechanical components that they might have added to the car. This software team is under unrelenting pressure to deliver on a 24/7 basis. Now, while we all undoubtedly feel under pressure to deliver quality code on time, it's nothing compared to knowing that your software is being used in a high-speed racing conditions where every fraction of a second counts. Now, consider the challenges that their software team faces as they're building things. First of all, they've got feedback coming from everyone, right? Mechanics, drivers, and other members of the team. And how do they just ensure proper communications? How do they avoid that speed tax that comes from constantly switching between a variety of applications required to build and ship software successfully? Now, with all the various components that they build, how do they manage these dependencies across the team to ensure that anything unexpected doesn't come up? And lastly, their teams are around the world. So how do they keep them in sync? So how did Sahara Force India overcome these challenges and keep moving fast? Well, the first thing they did was build a great team. Now, secondly, they standardized on Atlassian products to build their software, along with receiving some great support from our friends over at Adaptivist. Now, while it's the drivers that usually get all the glory, along with some great hair, by the way. We all know it's usually the software teams that keep them moving fast. So the challenges that Sahara Force India faces are not unique. I imagine that everyone in this room deals with some, if not all, of these challenges on a daily basis. Now I want to talk to you about how Atlassian is going to help you overcome these challenges. We spend a lot of time looking at how great software teams work. And if you break down how they keep their teams moving fast, there's really three components. The first is how they organize their work. The second is how their teams discuss and interact together while they are working. And the third is what they do to complete the work and get it done. I want to first talk about how the great software teams organize their work. Now, for the fastest teams, the days of throwing stuff over the wall are dead. These teams are now made up of a variety of roles and disciplines as they organize their work using agile principles. Now, a key tenet of agile is to focus on individuals and interactions within a team over the processes and tools. And this way of working is so critical to building software faster. Now, to support this way of working, this is why we've reimagined Jira software with agile at its core. I know many of you are excited to see a lot of the new features in Jira software, and so what I want to do is walk you through a few that we're most excited about to help your team move faster. First off, teams now have a home for themselves in projects. This is the board view in a project, which shows all of the issues a team is working on, and everyone is dropped into this view by default. Now, as you can see, these agile boards are now central to Jira software. No more navigating across the agile menu, having to hunt around for the right board to live in. It's all there available now by default in Jira software. Now, because you are creating new software projects all the time, you want to be able to not only jump across these projects very quickly, but you also want to be able to add new team members quickly. And now there's a simple way to do that right within the new sidebar. Now, lastly, if you're finding information that's related to a specific project, we know how much of a pain in the you-know-what it can be. Right? For each project now, you can actually place links to everything your team needs in the project shortcuts panel. Now, this could be your Confluence space, where your feature specs live, or maybe your team's HipChat room, where all the real-time communication is done. They're all now one click away. Now, if you're using add-ons, say like Tempo or Zephyr, no problem. These also can be listed here. This space is completely customizable for you. Now, there's a variety of team members that are accessing information in Jira, and they're coming for different reasons. Whether it's a product owner who wants to manage the backlog, developers who just want to know what to work on next, or dev managers who want to know if they can ship that next release. There's something for everyone in Jira software. Now, I'd like to know, where are my product owners in the room? Just show of hands. Great, fair number of you. Okay, now here's something for you. Now, as a product owner, you need to do backlog prioritization and keep on top of these project epics. Now, this is now all easily accessed from the sidebar. The Jira project is automatically linked to the relevant boards, and the right info for each board shows up in a single click. Again, no more fiddling around with the agile menu, searching for boards, or navigating across multiple boards, right? It's all there in a single click. Super easy. Now, for you developers in the room, we know that you just want to get into Jira, find the work that you want to do, and then get the heck out of there. Now, this is easy to do with quick filters. Quick filters not only shows you the work that's assigned to you, but also makes it really easy to get started. Once you choose that issue to work on, you can create a feature branch in Bitbucket right from within the issue itself. Now, even better, as you work on a feature branch, the status will automatically be updated back in Jira software. So again, no more manual updates. Being a product owner and a developer, we understand is very hard, right? However, for you poor souls who are in charge of releasing software, you have a special place in our hearts. In order to keep you releasing software faster, and especially with more confidence, we give you the Release Hub. Now, the Release Hub, it provides a high-level overview for how your release is tracking, whether it's the status of an epoch or an issue, or an update on code that's being currently developed, or the status of a build. All that information is in one central location for you. So no more panicking and praying before you're about to do a release. Now, Jira software, it's something that's purpose-built for software teams with Agile at the core. Now, with projects as your new home, you'll be able to get to planning and shipping faster than ever before. Now, there's a lot more to Jira software, and I encourage you to check out all the various sessions and the product hubs that are over in the Atlassian zone. While Jira provides the foundation to organize your team's work, we all know that teams require more than just tasks and code. What do we do with all the specifications, designs, and the documentation that's critical to shipping great software? Well, you use Confluence, of course. Now, Confluence is that one place where teams can create high-level roadmaps, they can publish their requirements, and they can report on their team's progress all in one space. And you just saw how Jira software provides a more tailored experience for software teams. Well, we're actually going to be doing the same thing for Confluence. Now, what I'm going to show you right now is a preview of features that will be coming to Confluence early next year. We've always had great integrations between Jira and Confluence, but we found that your teams are spending a ton of time jumping back and forth between the two just to look for relevant information on the project. Now, to solve for this, we're actually adding a new software space to Confluence so that you can connect your Jira project to your Confluence space. Now, all that relevant content is surfaced to your team in a single location, whether it's an individual sprint details, who's working on an issue, or how much work is left, all without leaving Confluence. Now, what happens when you've got stakeholders who are outside of the software team and they want to stay up to date with the progress? Well, this new space is a great way for you to share all the relevant status information to everyone. Let's take our F1 team as an example. Now, imagine that the mechanics are concerned about data collection and a feature that's been recently added to the cockpit. Instead of bothering team members during the sprint, they go to Confluence and they see all those relevant details themselves. Now, just imagine how much time you will actually save without having to update these teams manually. Now, for those of you who primarily work in Jira and in Jira software now, what does this actually mean for you? Well, it means that we can automatically surface this content that's located in Confluence back within your Jira software project. All the related pages in Confluence are now organized and easily accessed from within Jira software itself. You can either filter content by project, or you can even drill down to a specific sprint level. Again, this is automatically done for you without having to manually manage your project and your content that's located in it. And with these new improvements to Confluence, your software team can now move faster with easier ways to organize and access all of your content that's related to your Jira project. This will all be coming to you early next year. We talked about how Jira software and Confluence help your teams go fast, but we've yet to discuss how do you go fast at scale. As you know, one of the biggest problems we face today with creating software is the increase in dependencies across other teams. Unlike how we used to build these large monolithic software applications by a single team, software today is being built around a set of services that increasingly rely upon each other. And this is why we created Portfolio for Jira. Now, Portfolio provides a consolidated view for all of your team's projects. Now, with Portfolio, program managers can organize data across multiple Jira projects to understand the impact of changes that may affect development priorities. With automatic scheduling, your team gets a realistic forecast, allowing them to react when things change. Since we launched at Summit last year, over 3,000 customers have adopted Portfolio. You're all using it, and you've told us it's become an essential tool for your teams. A Portfolio works for you whether you're a big company like SpaceX, where you've got dozens of teams and thousands of components, or if you're a small team like Klarna. Now, we're building upon the success of 1.0 and are currently working on a much faster way to connect your team's existing projects to Jira. With Portfolio 2.0, which will be available early next year, we're looking to automate many of those manual tasks you had to do previously. For example, instead of manually importing, linking, and synchronizing your projects, we're going to now allow you to plug and plan in real time. So by dynamically connecting your existing boards and projects, you can set up Portfolio in only a few clicks, right? And by doing this, your data will always be up to date. No more manual updating. Now, this provides your team with full visibility across all of your projects. It allows them to make faster decisions and make sure planning is actually up to date. I heard a whistle for that feature, so I'm glad you like it. Now, if your teams are looking to better prioritize and manage these multiple dependencies across projects, and who isn't, by the way, nowadays, then you need Portfolio for Jira. And we've got you covered with scale. But in today's world, I think we all know that fast also means mobile. You want the power of Jira in your hand. So we're very happy to say that we're going to be mobilizing Jira software so that your team can move even faster on the go. I want to walk through a specific example of how you'll be able to use Jira software on mobile. Now, this is a pretty likely scenario. We've got Jennifer on the Service API team who gets an urgent ticket notification that the service is actually down. Now, on the ticket itself, Jennifer mentions her manager, Will, so that he can look into the issue and address it right away. Now, Will gets notified and knows exactly what this issue is. He comments on the ticket, and then he lets Jennifer know that, hey, he's on to fixing it. Don't worry about it. Frankly, this is a great way to be able to solve an issue during your evening commute. Now, there will be a lot more to the mobile version of Jira software. And we really want to get your feedback early on. So if you're interested to sign up as a beta tester, now's your opportunity to copy down this URL. OK, done. Now, those are great ways to organize how your teams work so they can move fast. But how do they quickly communicate and discuss what they're working on with the right people and in the right context? Now, today, we're building software that's used by people around the globe. And your customers are always on, and they expect to be immediately responded to, regardless of the time of day. Now, this puts a ton of pressure on your software teams, and they need to respond quickly and be available whenever possible. Now, given this world, how are we going to help your teams work more in real time? Well, increasingly, we're actually finding that HipChat is being used as a command center for teams, so they can work better in real time. Chat is the obvious foundation for HipChat, but the real power comes from those features that you're able to layer right on top of it. Now, let's look at some of these features and how they can help your team. HipChat is where teams live in real time. These teams generally self-organize, and they own their own dedicated rooms. Now, some of these rooms are actually permanent for each team. This is where they live and breathe on a daily basis. And some of them are just created for a specific event, say something like Summit. And then some rooms, well, these rooms are actually just there for fun, and I won't let you know what my favorite one is. Now, in these rooms, people will come and go as needed. But the great thing is that it's all actually reflected from within HipChat. HipChat also helps foster teamwork across the organization, making it really easy to share information and get a hold of the right people quickly. Now, at Atlassian, we have rooms that are focused on specific technologies and best practices. So for example, if you're new on a product team and they use Scala, you can easily find help. Or if you're interested in something like Haskell or Node, it's really easy for you to find that community as well, all within HipChat. Now let's say you need help right away. You can actually @mention people in their team room or in any public room, and you can get their attention straight away. Founders love this feature. Now, how many of you receive too many notifications? I expect everyone in the room to be raising their hand. All right. Now, we all know a little something about this at Atlassian. I hate to say it, but this is actually my inbox. And we recognize that we might be causing some of these notifications to be happening. But look, we're all getting a ton of notifications. And there's a lot of information that just hits us during the day, and it generally gets buried in our inbox. But what if only the most important information could just come to you in real time? Well, HipChat can actually integrate with your existing applications and notify you when important events happen right within your team's room. Walk you through a couple of examples. This is one where a customer gives you feedback about your product on Twitter and sends you a notification. Now, this is another example where someone on your team actually writes a spec for a feature request in Confluence, and that will show up in your team's room. And then also, because so many of you use Jira, you can actually see that when someone actually creates a Jira ticket, in this case it's a developer who's just dying to get a specific feature into the product, these also appear in HipChat as well. This is great. All this critical information, it just comes to you. Now, what's really great about HipChat is that I can actually receive notifications from over 100 different products and applications, including your favorite Atlassian products. And with these integrations, the information is actually pushed to you so your team is always in the know and can keep moving quickly. And the name of the game is speed. And notifications are great, but sometimes you just want to take action immediately and do it right within the room. So HipChat allows you to pull key information into the discussion without forcing you to leave the application. Let's say there's a particular Jira issue that you want to reference. You simply mention that Jira issue key, and then more details about that issue actually appear in chat. It's simple, but it's a very fast way to bring up that information and to get issues resolved in the room itself. Now, but we didn't want to stop there. Now, we use HipChat a lot, and we use HipChat integrations a lot. And as the number of teams and the integrations grew, so did these number of notifications. Now with HipChat Connect, notifications can be aggregated and displayed in a much more organized way for your team. Let's take a look at an example using notifications from Bitbucket. Now, with HipChat Connect, we introduced a new concept called a glance. And a glance will actually appear in the sidebar in HipChat and provides add-ons with a place to render notifications and content. For example, with the Bitbucket integration, we can see that there are actually 5 open pull requests that are listed in the room. By clicking on the glance itself, I can browse the list of open pull requests and get more details about each one. For this pull request, I can see who created it, when it was created, and who the tagged reviewers are. This specific pull request is really urgent. And so what I want to do is get the reviewers looking at this right away. So I go into the Actions menu here, and I can see that I can actually poke the reviewers in the room in order to get their attention. And clearly, poking the reviewers is a much better way than just going over their desk and kicking their chair. Provides a nice alternative to that. Now, given this is a priority, I'm only going to poke the reviewers who have yet to approve the pull request so that they can get on this ASAP. Now, the notification actually shows up in the team room, and an @mentions the person who's not yet responded to the review. How's that for public shaming? Now, when the review is complete, an updated notification will now actually appear in the room. Now, surfacing this type of information and allowing simple actions from within HipChat helps your team maintain focus on what's actually important. Now, this is actually a real integration that's used by the HipChat team. and it lets them push to production up to 5 times a day. Great example of moving quickly. Now, once coding is done and you actually finally ship your product, we all know that that is just the beginning. Once your software is out the door, you're going to use services like New Relic and PagerDuty to understand application performance in production and to notify you if issues arise. The ChatOps movement is happening because of tools like HipChat and because of integrations like these. Now, if you're interested to find out more about what the ChatOps movement can do for you, I highly encourage you to check out DDA's keynote tomorrow at 9 a.m. I know 9 a.m. is early after Bash, but trust me, it's worth it. Now, as you can see, HipChat is clearly more than just chat nowadays. It's becoming a command center for your team so that they can move in real time. We talked about how Atlassian helps your software team organize work and work in real time in order to move faster. But we all know that none of that really matters unless you can actually get software out the door and into customers' hands. Now let's talk about how we're going to help your teams ship software faster. We've worked with software teams for a long time, and the fastest teams are the ones that use Git. We've seen the transition from Git emerging as a standard to becoming the standard for how software teams work. And like you, we know that the transition to Git can actually be very difficult. It was challenging for us. It took a long time. But as we've talked to you, we've heard many of you say, look, how do I best transition from my previous source code management system like SVN over to Git? Or what are the best branching strategies that we should be using with Git? Or how do you leverage things like continuous delivery to get software into customers' hands faster? And we're dedicated to supporting your transition to Git, and we're going to be doing a lot of different things for you to help out. For example, we have the Getting Git Right microsite, which provides a comprehensive set of tutorials and is a perfect resource to answer many of these questions. We also have SourceTree, which is a great free desktop tool that helps teams visualize and interact with their Git repositories. How many of you use SourceTree? Yes, awesome. Awesome sauce, as they say. One of the best things about SourceTree is that it helps people learn Git without having to jump into the command line. Now, not only does SourceTree help folks grasp these concepts of Git, but also, as you progress and become more of an advanced user, we've got these amazing advanced features that are in SourceTree. So SourceTree grows with you. And when it comes to managing your team's code, we have Bitbucket. Now, Bitbucket was built with professional software teams in mind. It allows you to leverage the best of the open source collaboration model while also giving you the scalability and the extensibility that your software team requires. With Bitbucket, you deploy your code however you like, whether it's on our multi-tenant cloud service, hosted on your own infrastructure, or hosted on service providers like Amazon Web Services. Now, we continue to see great success with Bitbucket, and it's one of Atlassian's fastest growing products. Source code is considered the crown jewels, and the biggest companies in the world are trusting Bitbucket. Now, in order to keep these companies moving fast, we continue to focus on Bitbucket's performance at scale. Last Summit, we introduced you to Bitbucket Data Center. It's the only collaborative Git solution that supports massive scale. So what does this mean? How are we doing this? First of all, Bitbucket Data Center solved that critical problem affecting productivity for software teams, which was your source code management system going down when it's under heavy duress. Now, with active-to-active clustering, Bitbucket Data Center provides zero downtime and avoids performance degradation as your load increases. But we're not just stopping there with Bitbucket Data Center. With more development teams being spread around the globe, we want to eliminate the delays that it takes your teams getting access to that code that they want to work on right away. So with that in mind, I'm proud to announce that we're offering a new feature for Bitbucket Data Center called Smart Mirroring. Smart Mirroring. We've built Smart Mirroring specifically for distributed teams. Let's say your source code management system's in Minneapolis, and you've got remote teams. Cheer out to Minneapolis. And you've got remote teams in London and, say, Bangalore. Now, for those remote teams, depending on the size of your repository, it can just take hours to complete a clone. Now, by installing a local mirror, you'll be able to clone repositories from the local network rather than from a remote server located thousands of miles away. Now, setting up a new mirror is very simple. At its core, a mirror is actually a Bitbucket server instance. So if you've installed server, you'll know how to install a mirror. And you have full control over what you mirror. You can mirror an entire repository or specific projects. We also give you full control over the administration of your mirrors. You can check on the status of each mirror and actually remotely change each mirror's settings. Now, for you developers, when you're cloning a repository, you will now see multiple options, and you can choose the best mirror to clone from, whatever works for you. Now, with smart mirroring, we're actually seeing some organizations take their clone times down from hours to just minutes. While active-to-active clustering and smart mirroring are specific to Bitbucket Data Center, we're also working on other ways to dramatically improve the performance of Git. One of the biggest challenges with Git is that it doesn't play nicely with large files. Most teams, at some point, they use a large binary file, whether it's a Photoshop file, a video, or a 3D model. Now, companies who use large binary files either stay away from using Git entirely, or they just simply deal with the slow performance of their repositories. Now, we want teams to be able to use large files with Git. So I'm happy to say that Bitbucket will be supporting Git large file storage. With Bitbucket's new large file storage, large binary assets are no longer a problem for your Git repositories. So how does this innovation work? Well, with the large file feature enabled for your repository, regular source files are stored as usual in your Git repository. However, for those larger files, those are actually placed in an entirely separate file store, with only a pointer being placed into the Git repository itself. Now, this ensures that the Git repository stays small while your large files are still versioned and are available locally when you need them. Our support for Git LFS and smart mirroring are just some of the many improvements that we are making to Bitbucket. Now, we're not just stopping there, though. As a company who focuses on building software for developers, we are always looking for ways to help you move faster. And one of the interesting paradoxes of modern software development is that there are a ton of different tools to help with developer productivity. And this breadth actually comes at a cost, as developers are jumping from application to application, and you're dealing with different notifications, different user experiences, and just poorly integrated tools. And we all know that this context switching is just a speed tax. So what do we do about it? Well, let's go back to our F1 team as an example. And what do? Well, as I mentioned, modern F1 cars are extremely complex for the drivers, and any slight distraction just slows them down. So this has forced these teams to actually build an incredible user experience right into the steering wheel itself. And this minimizes the distraction for the drivers and allows them to keep their eyes on the road and to keep moving fast. And we want to do the same for developers. And that's why we launched Bitbucket Connect earlier this year. Connect allows add-ons to be tightly integrated right within the core product experience. And it creates a much more unified workflow for you and your teams. Now, I want to walk through some of my favorite examples of some of the recent Connect add-ons that have been built for Bitbucket. More and more teams are using continuous integration with Git today because they just go perfectly together. Now, one integration that we're especially excited about is the one from the team at Worker. Now, Worker is a next-generation continuous integration and deployment tool that lets you build, test, and deploy code as containers. Now, first in Worker, you define a pipeline that outlines all of your build steps into a YAML file. Now, the YAML file is actually checked in directly into your Bitbucket directory. So these YAML files are convenient, but they can get pretty complicated. So Worker actually built a custom file viewer that lets you visualize these YAML files all right from within Bitbucket. And this gives you a great overview of your pipeline structure. And it also lets you drill down to get more information about each individual build step. And this gives you a great overview of your pipeline structure. And your entire team can see it because it's embedded right within the repository itself, so your teams can understand how this thing is built, tested, and deployed, all from within Bitbucket. Love that Worker experience. Now, another integration that we're excited about is the one that the Azure team wrote at Microsoft. The panacea for every software team is to be able to make a code change and have those changes automatically reflected in their production environment. Now, Azure have made this super easy by letting you deploy the source branch of a pull request directly from within Bitbucket. Once your app is deployed, a link to the newly deployed test instance is available, and it's added right to your pull request itself. Now, this lets other reviewers collaborate with you on that same instance without having them to create their own instance. Now, in this case, the reviewer has some feedback about the logo, and so they're actually going to make some changes right within the pull request itself. Now, based upon this feedback, the author can then go back to the pull request, make those necessary code changes, and then once they're actually committed, Azure will automatically redeploy that app to production. And what you see here is that our logo is now officially updated. I wish the Bitbucket rebrand was that easy for us. Now, this type of integration, it provides a way more integrated development experience. It allows your team to iterate much faster and without the overhead of having to manage multiple tools in production. Now, these types of integrations from Worker and Microsoft, along with many others, are now available in the Atlassian marketplace. So definitely go check them out. If you're not using Git today, we're here to help you make through that transition by providing you with a ton of free resources along with the best product that's used by professional teams today, Bitbucket. Now, as you can see, we're working really hard to help your software teams go faster. Now, whether it's helping your teams stay organized with Jira software, Confluence, and Portfolio, or improving how your teams use HipChat as their command center, or how we help your teams collaborate around code and complete projects with Bitbucket, it's our purpose to help your teams unleash their potential. Now, before we all go enjoy ourselves this evening at Bash, I would like for you to hear from one of our most innovative customers. These folks are an industry leader, and they've standardized on Atlassian products to help their software teams go faster. With that, let me show you a video.
Splunk produces software that makes big data scalable and usable.
Yeah, when I joined Splunk, it was a single product company. Today, we're multi-product. We're in the cloud, we're on-prem.
We standardize on Atlassian so that we can have an integrated set of tools for us to use all the way from conception to delivery.
We use Jira to manage and drive our agile development efforts.
We use Bitbucket Data Center to host our code and to drive all our collaboration around that code. So we use Confluence to really collaborate on ideas and to design a feature and work through all of its iterations. We use Bamboo for our production builds and for QA testing.
We use HipChat as our internal messaging system, and we have all the products tightly integrated together.
Atlassian really gave us a way to have an integrated set of tools across our entire product lifecycle.
It really fosters teamwork and collaboration, which is vital in today's software engineering world. In order to go faster, it requires great collaboration across the functions, and Atlassian really allows us to take advantage of that.
It's always awesome. Yeah. Hand it up to Splunk. It's always awesome to see how great companies like Splunk are actually using our products to drive their continuous innovation. Just fantastic. Now, I want to really thank you for your time today. We just love sharing the work that we're doing for you all, and I hope that we can all keep moving faster together. Thank you very much. And even more importantly, I look forward to seeing you guys all at Bash today. So the buses are actually going to leave at 6:50, so by all means, please get on that bus, and we'll raise a toast to all the things that we just talked about today and to a great summit. Thank you.